Well, graduation is an exciting time. I know, especially for the kids, but also for the parents and grandparents. It is a important time of life, and it's also a great opportunity to maybe start setting some of those financial lessons and building that foundation with the new graduate. Today, we're going to talk about some of those things you can be doing and helping that new graduate with. We'll do that with Rob coming up. Welcome in. This is Legacy Beyond Wealth. I'm Ben George with Rob Shelton at Axio Wealth Management. Rob, it's graduation season. I know you got a number of clients probably that have kids graduating, but in your community, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of graduates. So it's a fun time of the year.
It is. It is. We're coming out of winter, spring's upon us, just getting ready upon summer here, and it's all starting new seasons, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Life.
Yeah, it's fun having that kind of fresh outlook. I know it's great getting into the summer and kind of turning that page into a new chapter of the year and being able to get outdoors in Utah is beautiful. But yeah, I think today it's a great topic because with these new graduates, it's a whole new world for them, right? We know we hope we set them up for the best and put them in a good position to be successful in life. But it is very hard once you get out of school and start earning a paycheck to really apply those financial lessons maybe your parents taught you early on. It's tough to actually start applying those right away because you have this newfound freedom.
Absolutely. And always with that, what do they say? With freedom comes responsibility. Yep. Or something like that, right?
That's right. That's right. It is. It's tough, and we all learn probably lessons the hard way. I think it's human nature. It's going to happen to all of us. But I guess for grandparents and parents, if you can kind of help avoid some of or limit some of those mistakes for your kids, I think that'll be very important. So we're going to talk about some of the things you can be doing and some of the lessons and things you can be teaching right now to really help set your kids up for success. And if you have any questions for Rob, always feel free to get in touch. The show description has all the contact information for Rob, but AxioWM.com is the website. Plenty of information there. Learn more about the process there at Axio Wealth Management. And again, schedule that time to meet with Rob. So I think the first thing, Rob, as we jump into this, saving and investing. I know that I think a lot of people understand you need to save, but I think the most important thing, I know I learned a little bit the hard way, and is if the more you can just start putting money in right away, when you get that first job, man, it can really set you up long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm saying this because my son's going to be a senior next year, and so this is right upon us. And so, I think when we talk with teenagers, one thing I have learned, and by no means am I the expert in how to communicate with a teenager, but I found that when you try to mentor them and give them advice versus telling them what they should or have to do, much more accepted. And so I think the biggest thing to do is to try to find that relationship or that period of time where you can have that conversation, and you got to set it up and stage it for the right opportunity versus just springing it on them and saying, this is what you should do. Usually when someone tells me, even though I'm not a teenager anymore, hey, this is what you should do, I kind of bristle a little bit. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of things in there. So we want to be more of a consultative approach as you're talking to your children and grandchildren. And I think the coolest thing that I have seen that really gets people motivated and excited is to show them the principle of compound growth and how that compound interest works. And so one of the things that I love to do, if you just Google investment calculator, you can play around with it. It'll ask you, how much you're going to save per month and what's your estimated annual rate of return. We usually use somewhere around 6 to 9%. And it's cool to be able to show and have that conversation much more in a consultative role in a more interactive forum with them on that, where they can actually see that growth. And I usually love to ask them and say, hey, what year do you feel like you really saw these investments take off? Ben, most of the time it's between the ages or between the year of about 10 years to 15 years in is when they really start to take off. Mm-hmm. And that opens up the conversation about how it's important to be disciplined on the long term. And the short-term volatility or not seeing a lot of results in the short term shouldn't distract us or get us set off course. But if we stay disciplined, boy, it can really show them the results of some great growth that's compounding over time for them.
Yeah, I think it's not only important to really establish that, hey, you need to be saving and here's what it can look like, but really it's about teaching them how to do that, right? The ways to take advantage of company opportunities and what type of accounts to open up, because we know we need to save, but oftentimes it's hard to know exactly what's the best way to do that.
Yeah, and I remember talking with a gentleman, very successful now, and he said, "Hey, I didn't have a lot of financial literacy when I was in school. Graduated, went to work at his full time job in a mailroom of a big corporation. And I remember being up on whatever floor it was of the office building delivering mail, and he saw this big sign on the conference room door saying 401k meeting this Friday, free lunch. All that he really grabbed was what?
Free lunch.
Free lunch. And so I ended up going there, but he talked about the power of early on knowing what a 401k is, how that works and functions. And I'm grateful that now financial literacy is, a topic that's better in our schools and teaching them and things of that nature. And so hopefully they're coming out, graduating, understanding what a 401k is, but that as well as a Roth IRA, helping them understand that not only compound growth, but compound growth with a tax advantage to it, where Uncle Sam's not taking a chunk out every year. It's kind of that snowball rolling down the hill effect can really have a big impact on them.
Yeah, absolutely. So saving and investing early, and kind of on the same lines is right is teaching them about the emergency fund. I know this is something I'm sure you talk with your clients that are adults that probably, a lot of adults struggle with building out that emergency fund. So what kind of guidance would you provide there in terms of, how to best build that out and then how much to save?
Yeah, that's a great point, Ben. I always tell people, hey, before we can start talking about the long term, we got to hit up the short term first, right? So as we're looking at that, starting out, it's always tough because sometimes the account balance is zero. You hope it's not negative, but it's zero. And if they've got a little bit of graduation money coming in, I always recommend starting out that emergency. Usually, want to build up to about 6 months of expenses that's out there. But that's hard when you're first starting out as a graduate. And so I always say, hey, make the first goal be $1,000. Once we get it to $1,000, then we can start to look at that long-term investing. And maybe we say, hey, we're going to save $50 a month. We'll put $25 into the emergency fund and $25 into the investing or the long-term fund that's out there. And so I think that's kind of the big goal initially, is just getting over that initial hurdle of $1,000 would be a great goal for most graduates to have.
Are you ready to unlock the freedom to live your best life? Schedule your no-cost 60-minute discovery meeting with our team today. During this session, we'll take the time to understand your family story and financial dreams. Together, we'll craft a personalized roadmap designed to help you achieve your goals. Let's explore how we can unlock the freedom for you and your family to thrive. Just click the link in the description of today's show to get started.
As we're talking about some of the things you can teach that new graduate in your life about financial literacy, and there's some really easy wins and some low-hanging fruit, but some things that can really set them up for success. And, one of those is debt. Rob, I mean, having those like honest conversations about debt, because it's easy to get yourself into trouble when you start knowing that paycheck's coming in. So let me spend a little bit. I'll be able to pay it off down the road.
Yeah. I was talking with a client the other day that, he made over $1 million last year. And so I find that some financial concepts, it doesn't matter how much you make, it still rings true. And if you're not disciplined enough, we talked about it with him and his wife. I call this principle double counting things. Be like, oh, I got a little bit of a raise, or I got this gift that came in. I can now spend it here. And then we forget that we had allocated or wanted to spend it here, and we go buy something else thinking, oh, I'll use that money here. And we double count for it. And that sometimes gets us into trouble. And so I think just having that disciplined spending approach is really key, but also helping them understand. I know a lot of parents at times will get them on a credit card to try to build some credit and things of that nature. But so important that it's disciplined, that it's paid off, because boy, you hate to have someone start off their life with 24% interest, right, on a credit card or something of that nature because they weren't disciplined enough to be able to use it. So I like low balance credit cards, don't not be able to rack up a lot, but also be cognizant of it. And really, revolving debt like a credit card does build some credit. The best thing they could do to be able to build their credit is going to be a vehicle loan, some kind of an installment loan that's out there. We had a client that had a son that got a little bit of money that came in, and he could pay cash for his vehicle, and he did. And we're recommending you go back now and get a small loan on that vehicle just to be able to build the credit up over time. And so I think you want to be very, very careful in how you use debt and try to use it wisely, right? Treat it just like you do with your handling an axe or a knife or anything like that. There's got to be some safety procedures around how you use debt.
Yeah, 100%, because it can be dangerous. It can be very valuable, and it is a great tool, but it can be very dangerous if you're not responsible. Now, all this thing ties back into budgeting, right? So I know that's kind of the next kind of simple thing you can be doing to help that graduate. So, what are some budgeting tips that you would provide someone in this position?
And I think so much in life is psychological, Ben. And what I love about this is when I say the B word, I see like people kind of pull back, repel a little bit, because we've all heard that we need to budget, but boy, that brings such a negative connotation with it sometimes. I like to tell people, hey, let's put together your spending plan. Really, it's the same thing, but by calling it different, being, hey, I'm just going to be proactive in how I'm going to spend my money sounds better than the restrictive nature of, hey, how am I going to put together a budget that's out there? So the first thing, that's just a mind shift change. And we kind of have that example. If you think about the jar and the rocks and the pebbles and the sand, right? Just having that concept and that conversation with other things we got to do first and pay first into things. And then what's the next step? And then we fill it in with the sand afterwards. And that's how you're able to get all this stuff to fit within your spending plan that's out there. But I think that's going to be really, really critical because as you and I know, starting off in a brand new phase of life can be really hard if it's developed with bad habits along the way. And so those good habits of being proactive are so vital and important.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. Again, these are some of the kind of the key things you can kind of help teach, the very simple foundational elements to kind of set them up for success financially. And I know a lot of people at this point too want to find a good gift that can be something that can be useful long term for someone's position, Rob. So, what are some financial gifts that you could give a new graduate that you think would be very beneficial?
That's great. I remember my wife, when she graduated, her grandparents gave her a savings bond. And that was kind of cool, a little bit of a financial instrument, although maybe not the most effective. And they were doing the best with the knowledge that they had at the time financially. And she was very grateful for the gift. But I think if you took a look at it, some of the things that could be really big out there and have a big impact upon that graduate years down the road would be helping them understand a Roth IRA and initially getting that funded. Another one might be giving the gift of meeting with a financial advisor, a financial professional, to be able to understand it. I love meeting with new graduates. We do it with all of our top clients and sit down with their teenagers. And it's so cool to see their eyes become enlightened in their minds. No one sets out on this new phase of life expecting to fail. They all want to succeed and know what that is. And sometimes it's nice when it's not mom, dad, or grandma, or grandpa to have a third party that comes in. I found that with my own kids that sometimes it's got to be someone else that says it to them and they actually listen a little bit more than just mom or dad. And then the other thing is maybe just getting them started out with different items. I remember when I first was starting off, what it was to be able to have $100 to go to the grocery store. Now that was a while ago, so it's not the same as $100 today at the grocery store, but at the same time, just to be able to get started off to say, hey, this is enough to get you going. I think that would do so much more than some of the other traditional gifts that are given out there, and say, hey, I'm really willing to want to invest in you. And I want you to know how important you are in my life and what impact you can have upon others when you set yourself up financially. So this is an investment in you and helping you to be able to succeed. Giving a gift with that type of intention and that kind of verbiage can really have a big impact upon a graduate.
It sure can. It sure can. And it's a wonderful time in their life and in your life as well. I know a lot of parents and grandparents are incredibly proud right now of their new graduate, and this is a great time to really help them take that next step forward as they become true adults and have that responsibility that comes with being out on their own and having a job and having to work now. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions for Rob, please get in touch. All the contact info is in the show description. You can also schedule a discovery meeting as well if you want to talk to him in Axio Wealth Management about your wealth management and putting a plan together in place and learn more about the way they work with other professionals. They put together a dream team to help you out. But all these things can be found online, AxioWM.com. All right, Rob, we'll look forward to maybe catching up with you in a year from now and seeing how you handle the new graduate and all that with your kids as well. But thanks for your insight today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben.